Welcome, welcome. This is our Ace the Interview episode. And if you're coming from our previous episode of finding a job, this is the most logical next step in that progression. You now have an interview, whether it is maybe on the phone, on video, or maybe on person. We have some tips for you guys to try to ace that interview. And although we're not experts, they like to say we're not dummies. And here, my fellow on the liner, Crystal.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And over there we have Steven.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. And our host for today's episode is Jun.
So let's go ahead and ace that interview together. We are on the line. So interviewing is a big part of getting a job. This is the old vetting process. And before anything even happens, we want to make sure that you guys are prepared before you even get to the interview. So we wanted to talk about what you could possibly bring and what you could wear before the interview even begins. So what is something that you guys immediately say you have an interview? What's the first thing you think about? Like, what should I bring and what should I wear?
Yeah, I know I'm walking in blindly to people that I'm just going to meet for the first time. So what I want to do is make sure that I dress to impress. I want to make sure that I highlight some of my qualities. Being able to dress well is something that I can definitely do.
Yeah, it really depends on the job that you're applying for. But I would always go somewhere between like business and business cash. So definitely dress up, but don't overdress. You don't want to wear like a tuxedo to your interview. You might want to just wear like a blazer and nice pants, maybe just a shirt and tie. And for women, honestly, go on Pinterest and look up business cash or business attire. They have like a lot of really good options. I would go more conservative on your interview than not.
What's the most formal level of interview clothing have you guys actually worn? Because anything that I've done has usually been for the film and TV world. So the most casual, like the most formal you would possibly get is probably a button up, not even a tie. So I'm interested to see what maybe you guys probably wore.
I've definitely gone, I think the most formal, like it's not really formal, but like a pencil skirt with a matching blazer and like a nice blouse. And I definitely wore heels with that outfit. And then instead of like a backpack or something like that, I wore like a nice bag that had all my stuff in it. Pretty business attire, less business cash.
I want to say in my younger years, I have brought like a blazer to wear over my button up. But I think I've done that like maybe once or twice during an interview. I've since learned to not wear a suit jacket or a blazer. I like to keep it with a real nice button up, one of the higher end button ups, not one of those button downs. They can get H&M, but something a little bit nicer, maybe a nice tie, depending on who I'm going to meet with. But standard, I'd like to wear a nice tie and nice button up with some dress pants.
I think the most casual I've gone was it was like a solid color t-shirt. It was more of like a creative field that I was interviewing for. I actually wore Jordans because it was like kind of a colorful thing. And so yeah, I wore Jordans and a t-shirt to an interview once. Maybe that was why I didn't get a call back, but I did wear that casual look.
Fun.
May have something to do with it, but could have just been you.
I guess it really depends on what you're applying for. Like if you're going to like a fashion industry job, like you better look like on trend, really fashionable, really express your personality. But if you're going for more like lawyer office, like really look business attire, formal almost, like really professional. So it depends. I mean, I remember when I interviewed for Hollister, I literally wore Hollister jeans and a Hollister shirt and I got the job. So it really depends on what you're interviewing for.
In terms of what to wear, is there anything in particular you're like, oh, this is a must when you go to interview?
100%. If you wear glasses, contacts, glasses, whatever, wear your glasses. I don't know where the stats are on this, but for some reason, employers really like people that wear glasses. There's like a stigma between being very smart and very, I don't know the word, smart and put together if you wear glasses.
Close-sighted?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I've been on the interviewer side, and honestly, the people with glasses, like, I really gravitated towards. I don't know if they look more professional to me or if they look smarter, but it's a thing. And every interview that I've worn my glasses to, I've gotten the job. I think there's something there, and I swear there's a stat on it somewhere online. So definitely wear your glasses instead of contacts for this one.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but I definitely follow that rule kinda. It makes you look, more smart, more put together, so I don't know how, people without glasses, feel about that, but maybe you get some fake glasses for interviews.
I was about to ask for people who have, semi perfect vision like myself. What do I do
Perfect.
if I don't wear glasses? Am I am I just at a disadvantage here?
If you
I
ask
don't
me, yeah.
know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how I feel if you wear like fake glasses and if you get into the situation where they ask you about prescriptions or something, that might be really scary.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
what kind of prescription do you wear?
I don't know. I would stay away from it. I wouldn't buy fake glasses just to wear them to the interview, but it won't hurt unless they like really ask you about it.
I think people do that enough where, like, they people could wear just glasses for fashion, that
Yeah,
even if you didn't have prescription, like, it wouldn't no one would really think twice about it.
that's true.
It would make
There's
sense for you to wear those glasses to an interview, like, even if they aren't prescription, if you're used to wearing those kind of glasses. Like, I don't see myself going out to buy a pair of glasses specifically for the interview if I don't naturally just wear fashion glasses.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you usually wear fashion glasses and you feel comfortable and you're not going to be in an interview like fidgeting with them the whole time, then I would say go for it. And if they ask you about it, you're like, oh, I just wear glasses for fashion. Because you already initially had that impression. And if they, first impressions always matter. So if they really liked that glasses look when you first walked in, they're not going to really take it away later if you say it's just for fashion. So I'd say go for it if you do wear them.
And then you walk in, they're like, "So tell me about yourself." These glasses are fake.
No, definitely don't
Always
It's
be
bring
just
fake.
so that
honest,
you would
guys.
like me more.
Oh gosh.
Which leads us to our next point. Wear some clothes that properly fit you. Don't buy fashion glasses if you don't naturally wear them. Same thing with your top and your pants. If you are going out to just buy a new outfit for this interview, make sure they fit. If you're digging in your closet and you find clothes that you can wear to this interview, make sure they fit. If they're too loose, too tight, it's probably better to just go to the store and get yourself a new outfit.
Yeah, you don't want to go to your interview looking like Lori Lightfoot. Insert picture here with her like pants that were like way too big. You know what I'm talking about?
She's got
Everyone like
flare dress pants.
everyone roasted her for it. You look so unprofessional if your blazer or your suit is like not looking at least a little bit tailored to you. You don't have to get your clothes tailored, but don't wear something that clearly looks too big for you or clearly looks too tight because that gives the impression that you don't normally dress this way and you don't know how to dress yourself like this. So it looks a little unprofessional to honestly, it looks really unprofessional to go to an interview where your clothes don't fit properly. Because then they're like, well, this person's not normally professional. How do I expect them to be professional in this job?
I also feel like there's an element of it kinda makes you look a little childish if, let's say, your clothes are too big on you. So just like a little kid that got dressed for, like, church or something. So, that could contribute to it. You kinda look more like a child if your clothes don't fit you properly.
Yeah, I was gonna add. I mean, you could probably get away with like one size too big, either on your top or your pants. But if I'm an interviewer and I'm looking specifically on how you dress and how you apply yourself, how you carry yourself, I'm gonna notice that your clothes are one size too big or one size too small. Not to bring any extra anxiety, but these are the things that you can control. Just get yourself another outfit. Dress for the job that you want, not the one that you're applying for. If this job is just a rung on that ladder that you're trying to climb in the next like 3, 4, 5 years, dress for that job that you want in 5 years. Really present yourself in that professional manner, showcasing what you want to be in the future without taking it too far. Clearly, just dress, real nice button up, tie, dress pants, dress shoes, make sure everything is well put together because first impressions do unfortunately last a very long time.
So if you're interviewing for, like, say, the medical field, would you come in scrubs or something like that? Or maybe like a doctor's lab coat? What would in that specific field, how would you say that you would play that one instead?
I would walk in dressed up as if I was one of their bosses. I would come in with a real nice white button up, real colorful, real magical looking tie. And
A
then,
little name tag that says MD?
I just come in real clean, nothing too flashy. Like the craziest thing is probably my tie, but I'm not using any, pastel colors. But it's something that stands out that puts me ahead of someone else that you would just meet in the hallway. Real nice dress shoes, the whole nine. But nothing too crazy. But again, I would dress as if I was applying for their boss's job.
I really like that because I don't know where I saw this, but everyone always says like, "Oh, I want to be like that one day. I want to dress like that one day. I want to be this one day." Why don't you just start today? You want to start dressing nice and you want to have that aesthetic, just start now. And then you are that. You're embodying who you want to be by just doing it now. And it's
Yeah.
just who you are. The more you fake it out, the more you start believing it and then you just are. You just are that. Dress for who you want to be because that is who you are.
Yeah, besides bringing yourself and your clothing and your fashion, a little bit of your personality to the interview itself, what like physical things or what other things do you guys think people should be bringing to interviews?
I like to make sure I bring extra copies of my resume in preparing for this interview. I like to at least look over my resume a couple times before walking in, but make sure that you bring extra copies of your resume into your interview just in case, they for whatever reason don't have it on hand and they want to ask you something. You can give them your resume before the interview actually starts so they can kind of just ask you questions based on the skills that you wrote for yourself there.
Yeah, I would definitely get the number of the interviewers that are going to be there plus 3 to 5 extra. So if you know you're going to be interviewed by 3 people, bring 3 plus 3 to 5, so like bring 6 or 8. Better to have more than not enough.
And I also feel like because if you watched our previous episode, you do want to make these kind of minor tweaks to make your resume fit better with whatever company you are applying to. So to have it there to look over right before you go in, especially if you did mass kind of applications, you want to know exactly what you got on your resume specifically.
And even better, if you know you're gonna be at this place for a little bit, like you're gonna go to a coffee shop before and like prepare yourself, or you're gonna be in the lobby for a little bit and preparing for yourself. Also, print a copy of the job posting so that it's fresh in your mind what they're looking for, and you can make sure to touch on different qualities that match what they're looking for. So you can have your resume and your job posting right next to each other and look it over right before you walk in.
And also, when I bring my resume in, I like to make sure that I print it out on thicker paper that's a little bit heavier, maybe a step towards cardstock thickness, maybe not completely cardstock, something that's just a little heavier than your ordinary printer paper. It really helps to stand out when you hand them a physical resume and it seems just a little nicer quality than other printer paper resumes that they have.
Yeah, and you can go to like FedEx, I'm pretty sure the FedEx print offices, and you can walk in there and ask them like, "Oh, what kind of resume paper that they have?" And they usually have like a booklet you can go through. They have like different colors, different thicknesses, and it's usually between like 10 to 50 cents a page. So it's really not that much to print your resumes the day before for your interview.
Just make sure, walking into FedEx and looking at their booklet of resume papers, this is not the time for your creativity to run wild, right? You just get something a little heavier, a little bit nicer, something that's just basically you can differentiate just by the touch. There's really no need to print it out on cardstock
Or
or,
hot
a
pink.
colorful paper. It's just something that's a little bit nicer quality, but still something that you could just walk around with.
In addition to your resumes and your job posting, like in a folder or something, a binder, also bring a notebook. And in that notebook, make sure you have questions written down that you want to ask your interview at the end of your interview. So at the end, they'll be like, "Oh, do you have any questions for us that we can answer right now?" And just have like 3 to 5 questions that you can ask them about the job or the company to show that you're interested in the company and you want to know how they differentiate themselves from other companies. And it kind of shows that you're kind of picking and choosing on your end too. So it gives you kind of like the look that you're also picking who you want to work for. And it gives them like an idea like, oh, I kind of like them because they're like, not only are we picking them, but they're also searching around on their end.
Yeah, I like to carry small little like portfolio notebook with me. So it'll have a few copies of my resume. It'll have maybe 2 copies of the job description, and then a few sheets of like loose leaf paper where I do have some questions written down. And it could be as simple as like, I mean, some questions that I've written down is like, what is the work culture like here? I feel like when I've asked that question in the past during my interviews, they look at me and they're like, whoa, okay, let me take a step back and really answer this correctly, because it seems like this person who asked me, what the culture is like, has standards that they live by, and they've been around the block and they know what kind of information they're looking for. So I think that's a really good question to ask. So even something as simple as that, you can have in your notebook or piece of paper to ask the interviewer just to make yourself stand out a little bit more.
That's a really good one. I feel like I taught you that one because I love to know what the culture is like. You want the culture to be inviting, fun, supportive, that kind of stuff. And I always like to ask, what does a day in the life look like for this position? What are the benefits that come with working for this specific position or company? Because that also shows that you're really thinking about why you want this job as well. Not like, I really want it, hire me. It's more like, what can you offer me to accept this job? Definitely have a notebook to write things in, especially like during the interview. If they say something that you want to remember, they tell you like things that are going to happen later, you want to make sure you want to write that down. Write the names down of people who interviewed you interviewed with. So, and it looks makes you look professional in that way too. Makes you look organized, you look
Studious.
prepared. So, definitely bring a notebook to write stuff in. If you don't know what to write down, you could just write like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just writing in here because I want to look studious. That's fine too. You do it for aesthetic, or you can actually write stuff down that will be helpful later.
Write down the name of the interviewer, because that is the first thing that I forget. I forget their name. So the first chance at, say, like mid interview, if I space out in between and I'm just like, I completely forgot their name. And I try to think about it on the fly. And if I remember, I'll write it down. If I don't, I'll try to squeeze it in there. Is there like someone else that I could speak to just to kind of talk about, how they work with their team? And then they'll mention someone else's name, and then they'll also mention their own name, hopefully later on in answering that. So they'll be like, yeah, you could talk to Jeff. And then Jeff will be like, oh, yeah, I work with Paul all the time. And you're just like, oh, yeah, Paul, that's your name. So let me write that down before I forget that. You don't want to walk out of the interview forgetting what that person's name was.
Something that this might not be the best advice, but something that I like to do is I want to make it comes along with also bringing your notebook. Obviously, you're going to have something to write in it with, but I like to bring like a pen, but I like to bring a specific pen that I can twirl pretty easily, that has a good weight to it. Because what I often feel awkward, especially in person interviews, is I don't know what to do with my hands when I'm talking, or you start just thinking about it. So when I have it and I can twirl a couple times, don't go overboard. Don't be like doing all the craziest tricks. Just a little couple twirls. Sometimes you can just put it behind your ear, gives you a look. Sometimes you can put it in your pocket right here, gives you a little look. But I like to bring a pen, whether it be to look a little cooler or to just give me something to do that keeps me calm. If you have something that makes you feel kind of calm that you can fit in your pocket that you can like, touch when you get a little more nervous, I recommend you bring that small thing.
I like that. I think it's cool when people have pens all the time. Like, oh, you're always prepared. You always have a pen.
Yeah.
Bring an extra in case the one that you're fidgeting with explodes on site. Have an extra one. Or if, let's say, the person that is interviewing you does not have a pen and they're sitting here, they're like, I have a pen because you're not prepared.
Oh,
It looks really good.
I like to mention
Bring
that
an extra
too. It's
pen.
like, hey, you're very unprepared. Take this pen because I am.
Clearly, you guys can afford to have me on board because here's a pen. You didn't have one before this interview, and now you do.
Now that we talked about what to wear and what to bring to an interview, we're going to be moving on to what to do to actually prepare for that specific interview. And the biggest thing for me, 100% make sure do not be late. That is the one golden rule when it comes to doing and preparing interviews. Make sure you're there early. I don't care if you're there 45 an hour early, get there early. If you're just 1 minute late, you look terrible. So don't be late.
do not be late. Definitely prepare to at least tell them that you're there 15 minutes beforehand. You know, like, I have an interview at 1 p.m. Make sure you get to that reception desk by 12:45, the latest. And then they can prep, like, oh, they're here already. They can get themselves ready. And in the lobby, you can prepare for yourself. But if you're going somewhere that's like crazy traffic, like the city, and you're going into the city from the suburbs from somewhere, whatever city you live by, prepare like 2 hours. Like, get there an hour before and like park your car and sit in there for like an hour. Go to a coffee shop close by. You do not want to be stuck in traffic before your interview.
Yeah,
Just
bring your
plan
get
the
stick
whole
mix.
day.
It really makes you look bad if you show up, honestly, a couple minutes late to your interview. I try to show up 10 to 15 minutes early for my interviews, although I have walked in, on the dot. And unfortunately for me, I have no time to prepare before I walk in, but that's how the things happen. So if you want that extra leeway, make sure you get there early and check in with somebody 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time because it really helps out in preserving your image in that sense.
If you are Filipino, or there's a lot of cultures that say this, but we say Filipino time, that does not is not an option here. There's no Filipino time for job interviews. Come
It
on
cannot
time. If
apply.
you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time.
10 to 15 minutes early.
Yep.
Account for traffic, drive time, travel time, what have you. Prepare for it.
And if you're 15 minutes early and the receptionist is like, oh, they'll be with you 1 second, ask them where the bathroom is, go to the bathroom and double check everything on how you look and make sure you look prepped. You look sleek, you look on fleek, you're ready to go. Make sure your shirt's tucked in properly, your hair's all fixed. There's no mascara under your eye, nothing in your teeth. Exactly. Go to the bathroom, double check everything, and then go back out. You'll be good.
Usually, when I come on time, which is early during my interviews, I like to take a minute or two to kind of just like take away all that looming stress in my mind. I'll literally either be in my car or in the elevator, maybe even in the lobby. I'll just do either like a stretching technique or a breathing technique. I'll be in my car and I'll just have my arms out to the side like this, stretched out as far as I can, and just hold it and breathe, let all the air out, and then hopefully calm my mind just so that, anxiety and stress is gone. I've even done it a couple times when I've gotten early in the car where I gasp out a huge scream just because I have so much anxiety. So I mean,
Screaming.
I'd be sitting back and I was like, "Ah!" I mean, it really helps to get all the emotion out of my brain because I feel like, I can get pretty high stress pretty easily, especially before an interview. I get really nervous and tense, and I don't want to show that to the person that I'm going to be interviewing with. I want to be, fluid and free. And I feel like, letting out that emotion on your own really helps, even if it's just for a minute or two. So if you have the time, do it.
Just make sure if you're in the car, you look both ways to make sure your interview is not in the next door, in the next car. They're like, I saw you screaming earlier in the car. What was that about?
I think that would be a positive in my end if someone were to catch me, because then it brings me to that level of conversation to where I could just be personable with these guys, not so much professional the entire way.
You don't think you come off as like anger issues? This guy's
Yeah.
insane.
Mr. Gadiano, I
No,
see that
I'm
you're applying to be the preschool teacher. Gah!
and then you can come back and say, this position is really important to me. And so there's a lot of stress and nervousness that's been building up inside of me. And I know this is one way that can kind of clear my mind of that stress. And so that you can get the best me that you can get. I don't want, my nerves to come in between this interview process. So, this is something that I do to just help myself and make sure that I bring everything that I can to this table the right way.
It was very professional of you. A
And
great way to spin a crazy, awkward situation.
especially if it's in the parking lot or in the bathroom, like these are semi-private areas. So you can kind of do what you want. Don't scream in the bathroom because people in the building might hear you. But, you could do these stretching techniques. You could breathe. It has helped me tremendously in the previous interviews that I've had. I believe ever since I've learned that technique, I am 100% of my interviews. I have not gotten a call back. So trust me, people, it works. There are other ways for you to relieve your own stress. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but those things help for me. So I'd say it should help for you guys too.
Another way to help you get that anxiety out and that stress that you're not prepared kind of feeling is just practice answering questions with somebody or just aloud to yourself. The more comfortable you are hearing your own voice say the answer to things, the more easy it's going to come out later. So just practice, those questions online that are, most likely to be asked during an interview and prepare your answer for that question. So before your interviews in a week, throughout the week, just say the question out loud and then answer it. And then you're always preparing yourself on how you're going to answer a specific question, and you already know what you've been saying so often that it's really easy for you to just come out naturally later. When you're trying to find questions for the job, definitely check Google and search the company and search interview questions. I feel like a lot of the interviews that I've seen, even like if you go to Glassdoor, there's people who have interviewed for that company or even your specific position, and they tell you like exactly the questions they've been asked. And more often than not, they're not going to stray too far away from those questions. You can prepare like exactly what they might ask.
It really helps to practice those questions out. I can't just ask myself a question and then answer it wholeheartedly. I need someone else to ask it for me. Otherwise, I won't care. So luckily, I have Crystal to kind of help me out with some interview questions. So I'll just go to her and say, hey, can we practice this interview? And then she can even come up with some questions that I didn't think was or didn't expect to hear or to be asked. So it really helps to either look these questions up on your own so you can kind of prepare for yourself, or to have somebody else, ask these questions for you, because then you can have that back and forth with someone else to critique basically your answers.
I think also if you practice saying it to yourself or with somebody else, you can kind of put little notes on timing. You don't want to go too long. Don't make a whole story, especially in an interview. There's going to be limited time. I want to say most of them are going to be like a 15-minute segment, and then they have another interview afterwards. So if you spend the whole time answering one question, it's not going to be great. So you figure out kind of timing with certain things. If you need more time for a specific answer, or if you need less time for a specific answer. So saying it out loud with somebody else or to yourself, you can kind of measure out that timing.
Yeah, like I would definitely measure between like 1 to 3 minutes max per question as your answer. Because usually they set up these interviews between like 30 to 45 minutes to space it out properly. 1 minute to 3 minutes for every answer.
What I've done in the past, Crystal has given me basically like a prompt of interview questions, and I kind of write out maybe 3 or 4 sentences to answer each question. And that's basically just to highlight the main points that you want to hit. Otherwise, be prepared for them to ask you for more between those questions, where you would then need to just at least hone in on those details that you want to hit as well. I feel like 3 or 4 sentence answers should be, enough to answer their questions. And if they do want to dive into those questions a little bit deeper, just be prepared for that.
There definitely is one specific type of question that I want to talk about because A lot of interviewers will ask this type of question and various types of question that just fit in this format. And it's so important to answer in this way because it really shows the growth of you as a person and your skill set. So the question I'm talking about is when they ask you for a problem, ask you about a problem and how you fixed it. An example would be name a time when you ran into an issue at work and what steps did you take to solve it? Or name a time you had a conflict with a coworker and what did you do to solve that? Things like that, where it's like something bad and then what you do to fix it. And in those types of questions, they're really looking for you to describe the conflict or the issue, the steps you took to fix it and who you involved to help you fix it, and then the solution of how you came about the solution and how you are better off because you came to that conclusion. They really want you to take a bad situation and turn it into a learning lesson or a better situation. And that really shows how you're a problem solver. You can think on your feet, you're a self starter, you can work independently to solve problems. Interviewers will ask questions like in this format, like name a time when something bad and how'd you fix it, kind of thing. And I can guarantee you will ace the interview if you figure out how to formulate your answers in that way.
Yeah, this is a golden nugget right here. Everything that Crystal just mentioned. And I think the biggest key to nailing those answers is to make sure you use the right verbiage. Interviewers typically respond best to are communication, adaptability, escalate. Knowing if there is a conflict that you are presenting to them, that if there is a need to escalate the situation, you know where your resources are. Using that, teamwork. I mean, what else did I miss? Communication. These things are huge. Use these words because, they really help for you to stand out and know, and it helps them understand that you realize what the situations are, what you have to do to solve those problems, and also that you can solve these problems on your own. Even if you don't have the resources, you know where to go and how to go about it. Make sure you let them know that you are a problem solver and that you can get it done.
Exactly. So always describe the conflict and issue briefly, describe the steps you took to solve it, and explain how you were successful.
Make
Bottom
sure
line.
you include that you communicate with your teammates. You include some teamwork if you can. Make sure you show them that you are adaptable to different situations. Let them know that there isn't one single path to solving these problems and that you are able to use your resources to then solve that problem.
So, my last point for how to prepare for the interview is very similar to what we said in our previous episode on finding the job. It's when you take the job posting and you tweak your resume to match that. But for the interview, look at the job posting and use the words that they use in that job posting. Use the qualities that they are looking for and make sure you present yourself in that way. So, if they ask for someone who is adaptable or someone who's a fast learner, in your interview, say, I'm a really fast learner. I take things and I run with it. I don't need direction and etc. So literally use the words what they're looking for because there's a reason why they put those in the job posting.
This is another good reason why you should print out the job description before you go into a physical interview, is because then you can read over and you might see that on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be working with a small group or a team, whether or not it's, at your side or if it's someone that you report to. You can, highlight your own qualities to make sure that you match what they're looking for. If I'm working in a small team of 3 or 4 people, I'm going to say that I'm a great communicator. I'm going to be able to solve problems, take lead, take direction if I need to, or I can work under direction without having any kind of guidance. These are the things that really help out in looking at the job description, making sure that you are marketable for this position.
Well said.
So get those screams out. Make sure you get the right ones ready for before you get the interview, underway. You don't want to do some half scream and then realize it didn't work,
Yeah.
or some breathing techniques or some stretching techniques. Try them out before actual interview day. I guarantee it'll help your chances.
And if you're more of a sad person like me, just cry. You could cry before an
Uh,
interview. Or maybe the day before. You don't want to mess up your makeup. Let out a little cry. I don't know. I'm not gonna be screaming, but I could support a little pre-interview cry.
And also remember to be a little more fluid with preparation. You don't want to be locked in into exactly what you're preparing for. So if somebody says something different, or say they greet you in a way that you didn't prepare for, you don't want to be like, well, wasn't prepared for that. So always be fluid when you are preparing for something. There's gonna be things that change. You're not in control of everything that can happen in this said interview. So now that we talked about preparing for the interview, we're going to go even deeper. You are there, you are having the interview, whether you're having on the phone, you're online doing it on a video conference, or you're in person. We are here at the interview. So here are our tips. And also, we'll be incorporating a smaller game. I'm going to call it Roadblock. So every so often, I will be prompting these two with some roadblocks during the interview,
Great.
and they're going to have to weasel their way out of there or
All
find a
right.
solution to make sure they don't seem like an idiot. So this is going to be some roadblocks.
Number 1, do not be stiff and rigid. You want to be relaxed. You want to have that poise where you look relaxed, professional, calm. You want to show that so you look confident and you look more professional and you give off like a likability feature. You don't want to be like, "Hello, my name is Crystal." you know,
Yep.
you
Don't
want to
be a
be relaxed.
robot. Ah, ah,
You want to
ah,
have
ah, ah.
fluid movements.
You definitely want to show that you are relaxed because I'm sure they realize that this is a stressful situation for a lot of people interviewing with them. You want them to see that you can handle stress, right? Or at least you don't want to give off the impression that you cannot handle stress because more than likely, on the job, it will be stressful. And you don't want to show them that you fold under stress, especially just during the interview. Definitely look relaxed, free. Make sure you hold in all that stress or at least hopefully alleviate it before you get in. But try to look a little relaxed. Don't look stiff. Don't look rigid. Don't be a robot.
That brings us to our first roadblock.
What?
So
Ye-
you are there and you're, trying to be relaxed, you're trying to be not so rigid. And in that process, you space out. The interviewer has been talking for a little bit, and now you realize they stopped talking, they're looking at you. What do you do? Well, how do you get out of that?
I'm sorry, I missed the back end of that question. Could you repeat it?
I was gonna say that. You say, "I'm sorry, I just missed the last part of what you said." Because what if they didn't ask the question? You just say, "Oh, I missed that last part of what you said," and that's it. And they repeat it.
I was saying I was just trying to see how you would react because I know you're not paying attention and I'm going to stop talking here.
Oh, you did a good job. You almost got me there, sir. But
Oh, I missed the back
I
end of
just
that.
asked a question.
Yeah, I think that's a
Don't
great way to
panic.
get out of that roadblock is don't panic 100%. If you miss what they say, there's no consequence to be like, "Hey, sorry, I missed the back end of that. Can you please repeat that?"
And they say something that you have no idea what the beginning part was, and then you're more confused. I'm
I
sorry,
was
I
just
actually
going to
meant the
At
front
that
end of
point
what you said.
at that point, you're screwed. You can't double down and ask again.
No, yeah, I was just answering, I was asking how you would handle a situation like that.
Uh, I've never been in that situation. I'm perfect.
Like
No, definitely just ask them repeat it. There's nothing wrong with having them repeat what they said.
Yeah, it's better that you respond correctly than to make it look like you weren't spacing out. A wrong answer is definitely I would think is definitely worse.
I was so nervous. I don't know if I closed my car door. I'm sorry I spaced out. What was the last part of that?
So you guys have officially cleared the first roadblock. Now let's continue with our interview and our tips on the interview.
So another one thing that you need to remember, I mean, everybody knows this, but I'm going to say it here just to drive it home is make eye contact. Have like a good, what is the percentage? Is it like 70-30, 80-20? 80% have eye contact and 20% you could just like veer off.
Oh, man. I want to
I have no
say
clue. No
if that's the
clue.
percentage, I don't even know if I'm in it,
Well
but I
under.
am completely locked in. No, I'm locked
Oh,
in with
you're
whoever's
over.
talking. I'm way over. If they are asking me a question, if they are talking, whoever it is, I am glaring into their eyes. I want to make sure I maintain that eye contact, but I'm not sitting here, beaming, eyes wide open. I just want to make sure that they, get that physical reception from me that I'm paying attention. I want to make sure that they know that I'm paying attention and that I'm being receptive to what they are saying.
I found a stat or a study done by Michigan State University. They said the perfect amount of time you should maintain eye contact. Eye contact is 50% of the time while you're speaking and 70% of the time when you're listening. How do you guys feel about that?
Is
Yeah.
that
Whenever
specifically for an interview or just in general?
In general, to maintain appropriate eye contact without staring.
the reason why I say that I'm locked in to whoever's asking me questions is because I also want to make it a point that they are the most, whatever they say is the most important thing I have going on that day. I want them to feel that sense of power in their words. If they themselves were to make a mental mistake and to slip upon their words, I'm going to catch it and I'm going to know that they're going to catch it. I'm going to let them know that I am paying attention. So, it keeps everyone on their toes. So I feel like, I can stay on the same level as them. They can stay on the same level as me as far as that goes. So I like to make sure that I keep, eye contact, eyes straightforward, my hands, I'm not fidgeting or anything when they are speaking to me. Now, if they ask me a question and then I am then required to answer, that's when I will kind of start taking little glances around the room and then continue to look at them straight in their eyes before I start answering. I feel like this is the best way for you to prepare to gather your thoughts is to kind of take your eyes off of them for a second, look around the room, get your thoughts correctly, and then or reestablish that eye contact. Because once you see them looking straight at you, your mind is going to get locked in and you're going to say what you need to say. And I feel like that's one of the best ways to answer an interviewer's question.
And if the interviewer's talking, a nonverbal cue is just to nod your head a little bit to give them assurance that what they're saying is coming through. Unless they're talking about something that you shouldn't be agreeing with. Like, don't go to the store when you're on lunch and you're like, just make sure your nods are coming in at the right time.
Another thing that I do to make sure that I'm not like a robot in that sense, because it's easy to just listen in on someone and you're sitting there nodding your head, then I catch myself realizing I haven't even been paying attention to what this person's been saying. So what I do to try to escape that, actually saying something in while they are talking, it's visual or it's verbal confirmations that I'm listening. So, they're saying, yesterday was a busy day at work and we were understaffed
Yep,
or,
yep. Uh-huh.
so I'll be there and say, sure. Yeah, sure. I'll just slyly throw in, sure under my breath. Obviously they're going to hear it, but it's nothing that'll, take over their thoughts or make them lose their train of thought. So, if you guys were asking me something and the beginning of the question, you say, you're setting up the situation. It was a really hectic day, sure. And then I'll let them continue and finish. Just try to time it, make sure you space it out. It's not like a chirp, chirp, chirp. Maybe once or twice during, their questions. If verbal cues don't work out for you, if you're just sitting there nodding your head, you can get lost in that motion a little bit and your mind can wander. So I like to stay engaged by listening to what they're saying and then giving them verbal confirmations, at least for them and for myself.
Yeah, and for those of the population that do not maintain that over eye contact, like me, I'm well below that mark. Whether I'm listening or I'm talking myself, I'm definitely not making eye contact. I would say I'm probably in the realm of 10% eye contact either way.
Done. More
And
eye contact.
that's something, if you are struggling with eye contact, just remember you do not have to look directly in the eyes of people, especially
Oh,
if you're in a big long desk or you're across from somebody. You can play around. You can look at their nose, you can look at their ear, you can even kind of look to the side of their head depending on how far you are and what angle you're sitting at. You don't have to look directly into the eyes of somebody. I know for me when I'm talking, it's easier for me to remember something if I'm looking around. Don't feel so anxious that you can't do that, like, you have to be locked in. At the end of the day, you wanna be more comfortable than to try to maintain a statistic. So for everybody like me whose percentages are way below, just remember there are ways you can get around it. Look at something else and also just be more yourself than anything. Don't have feel like you have to lock in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it natural.
I maintain that high percentage of eye contact, and this has come through years and years of interview experience. Even now, when I get nervous during interviews, I do, lose eye contact. What I would do is, look down at the table very briefly and then look up right back in their eyes. That's one way that I feel like would help me, gain that equilibrium back. If I'm stressed out, I'll just like kind of look down for a second, make sure, I make sure I'm not moving my head to look down. It's more so just a movement of my eyes to try to look at something else for a second and then look back at them just in case, if they are paying attention to where my eyes are going, I'm not wandering and they don't think that my mind is wandering as well.
Which brings us to our second roadblock of the
Yeah.
interview. So
Yeah.
now we are
Ah.
we're making substantial eye contact. We're feeling a little less stiff. We're doing all right. We recovered from spacing out for a little bit. But here comes the
Ah,
next roadblock. You realize that in the interview, you've actually been saying the wrong name of the interviewer.
oh my
You're
goodness.
sitting there, you've been calling this guy Ethan. Yeah, Ethan, I think it makes a lot of sense that we're doing this. Ethan, Ethan, Ethan. And he never corrected you. And someone comes up to the side. They say, "Hey, James, after this, blah, 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 blah." You realize his name is James. What are you doing? You said Ethan the whole time.
Once you've settled down from the initial shock and embarrassment, you definitely like you say, "Oh, I am so sorry, James. I completely thought your name was Ethan. I thought that's what you said at the beginning. I apologize throughout this interview that I called you
Yeah.
Ethan. I'm really sorry about that." And then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then you could throw in a joke like, "You can call me Sarah. That's fine if you want to get back at me for that one." And turn it into like a lighter mood, you know?
Yeah, I probably would have went the wrong direction there. I would have been like, "Did you? I thought you said your name was Ethan. Did you say that, or am I making that up?" They were like, "No, no, my name's James. That's what I said earlier." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm confusing me with somebody else. I'm so stressed right now." And then kind of chuckled to myself. And hopefully they can respond personably and be like, "It's okay. Just relax. It's not that big of a deal. Carry on with the interview." Hopefully. If they
Nice.
react in a rash way and they're like, "Yeah, my name's James. I don't know why you've been calling me Ethan. I don't know why you're stressed out. Like, just interviewing here." And it makes me feel worse. Like, just sit there and breathe. Okay, I'm sorry, apologize, and then, try to get your mind right and keep going.
Yeah, you definitely I think you guys are kind of went the right direction. Always, you want to apologize. If he's not going to correct you, at least make the correction yourself and to use it as a joke. Crystal said you can call me Sarah if that makes us even, or maybe you start calling him James and then toward at the end, when you're saying bye, you be like, Okay, bye, James," or Ethan. And you have that kind of now you have that interpersonality with this person. So you can
Definitely.
use it as an advantage. Is something that you can use as a joke. So I think you guys officially cleared roadblock number 2.
Oh, let's
When
go.
in doubt, joke it out.
Yeah.
So let's get back to some more tips on during an interview. Actually, tying in with making something a joke and having that connection with somebody. Just remember when you're in an interview, remember the layover test. It is the idea that people are hiring you to work with them. So you want to make sure that they like you. So if you are the same candidate and you're at the same level as somebody else, you have the same credentials, you do just as good in every conceivable benchmark, they're gonna pick the person that they like better. So if you are personable and you make jokes and this is somebody that they would want to work with day to day, then you'll be more likely to get that job. So remember the layover test. So who do you want to get stuck in a layover at an airport, and who do you want to talk to beyond that?
Yeah, I always benchmark myself. Like, if I made someone laugh in the interview, like, I'm feeling like that was a really good interview. I got to make sure I got to make somebody laugh and feel comfortable. It makes the interview situation so much more relaxed and you feel a lot better after making someone laugh. So definitely throw a joke in there. No inappropriate jokes though. Make them real PG. Okay, guys, keep it PG.
I feel like for most of the interview, I'm just like warming up to that point where they become, like a normal, everyday walk the street person with me. Not so much someone who's, towering over me with all this power, authority. I'm always trying to get to, that personable character of the person interviewing me. So, I mean, I'll even do things on my own to just warm myself up. If they first question, tell me about yourself. And I'll sit there and be like, and I'll sit there and smile, big smile on my face as if, it's something that I'm really proud of or passionate about, even if it isn't. I'm 31. For whatever reason, that could have meaning to me, but it's something to show them that I have some sort of emotion, emotional tying to what I'm actually saying. And it's not just me spewing out words for them to hear what they want to hear. So, I'm 31. I'm in master's program right now. I'm going to school. I'm also working 2 full-time jobs. It is pretty stressful, but I try to make it work. Little things like that to where I just keep a smile on my face or, make it a little bit less serious sounding than it actually is.
Like humanize yourself and be relatable.
I'm more so looking for them to get to that point with me, because then makes the interview process a little bit easier. If they start smiling, joking around, see that they've loosened their grips a little bit more, it just helps me be a little more relaxed, a little more fluid. And that's ultimately what you want your interviewer to do.
So, boom, boom, boom. We've hit another roadblock pretty
Oh
so soon
Ah!
after the last
boy.
one.
All right.
Now, this is your roadblock. So, you are asked about something in your resume that you've kind of embellished a little bit, whether it be your skills or your proficiency in a certain thing, or say you kind of said that you took an internship that maybe you didn't quite take. What are you doing if you're confronted with your embellishments right to your face that you have on your resume?
I would probably first disclose that it's been quite some time since I have used those skills. If it's unfortunately, like the most recent thing that you put on your resume and you say, this I might have been using that, but I don't know if I was doing it correctly the entire way. I have found out there are more efficient ways of getting these things done. So I'm currently, working to master those skills. Something like that.
Yeah. You could throw in a little white lie here and there, like you aren't really that great at something. Just generalize your response like, "Oh yeah, I definitely took a class on that and, it was really hard, but I definitely got through it." It's like if you pretended like you had a certification or you pretended like you're really good at Excel or whatever. Kind of generalize it and kind of deflect to a different question if you can.
I like to make
Yeah.
sure that I fully disclose that I'm not a grandmaster at these things and that, like everyone else, I also need more work to master my craft, but that these skills are something that I can achieve.
I think you guys have squeaked by that roadblock.
Oh,
You want to make sure that it is something that you can say, I like the idea of, "Oh, it's been a while since I've actually used something like that, but I have been proficient before." And also the idea of just like you can't, there's always room to grow and get better at something. Even you say that's your skill, you can get better at this, but a little white lie doesn't hurt too much. Just don't backs against the wall. I didn't do it. I lied. That is probably not the road to take there. So we're gonna
Stay
go back.
calm.
We're gonna go back to our tips during the interview.
But at the very end of your interview, you want to make sure you ask them what the next steps are and the timeline of events that you should expect. So you always want to make sure, like, oh, now that this interview is over, how long should I expect for you to reach out to me? Will that be through phone call? Is that an email? And after that, what are the next steps after this? Just so that they know that you're going to be expecting something. And if they tell you they're going to call you in a week, and they don't call in a week, you can definitely call them yourself and say, "Hey, they told me they would reach out to me in the week. They haven't yet." So it kind of gives you a nice way to keep them on schedule so that they are on in top of mind that they need to get back to you.
Definitely reaching back and getting a way to reach back to people at a specific timeline, whether it be a week or 2 weeks, is something that's key and it's important because it also shows that you have that interest. Like you are really interested in this job. Like I will reach out to you to make sure, to see if I get this job or what part of the process you're in.
Yeah, it really puts in perspective that you also have expectations from this company, much like during the interview process, they probably have an expectation from you. At the end of the interview, it shows that you have some kind of expectation from them. And like Crystal said, it puts you on this timeline to where you can kind of gauge if they didn't call you, or if something were to be miscommunicated, you can call back in a week's time or 3 days' time or whatever timeline they gave you or whatever timeline they give you. It puts both of you guys in check.
So something that's also real important is during the interview, you want to make sure you remember something specifically. Remember who said a certain thing so that you can mention it in the thank you note. Thank you notes are huge. I know it's becoming less and less popular nowadays, but to really separate you and put you apart, a lot of our tips are to separate you from the competition. If you send a thank you note, or even if you handwrite a thank you note, it definitely separates you from the competition. And if you remember something and you say, "Oh, I thought it was really good that when James said this about the company, this whatever specific thing you remember, that really helped me get a good perspective of the work culture that this place has." If that's in your thank you note and they can see that it is customized to them and it's not just a thank you note that sends to every company that you apply for, it really leaves a good impression on them for your thank you note.
Yeah, or if you can like refer to a joke that you guys had, it's nice to put in a thank you note to differentiate them from any other thank you note. I know someone who always says they always bring up sports in their interview, and they in their thank you note they'd be like a "Go Bulls" or "Go Bucks" or whatever,
Mm.
and it really sets them apart. Like, oh, I like this guy; he likes the same teams that I do. So I don't remember who taught me that, but that might be good if you really like sports and want to throw it in your thank you note.
That's not bad, but like go Bucks. Has anyone actually ever said that?
Okay, I was
A
thinking of
little white
local
lie.
basketball teams, all right?
A little white lie. And then you get hired and you have to be the Bucks guy the whole time.
Yeah.
Hey, this guy likes the
Oh,
Bucks.
how was the
Only
game
two
last
of us.
night?
The only two of us in the office that like the Bucks,
Oh,
right?
no.
No, but
Oh,
it definitely does separate you from your competition if you add something that was, specific to your interview process with that person. So, hey James, sorry I was calling you Ethan most of the half of the interview, but it was really great learning about the company and the culture and the day-to-day responsibilities. Maybe add another specific detail in there. A little short, sweet, to the point. Thank you note really goes a long way and it helps your chances out tremendously.
And it's also important that when you write a thank you note, if they're depending on how, make sure you send one to each person that was there in the interview. If you're interviewed by 3 people, you send each of them individual thank yous. So make sure you account for everyone who's in the room.
yeah, like, before they walk out, like, if they're sometimes in interviews, they'll, like, have the main interview, and then someone will be coming in and out. At the end, you can ask the interview, like, "Oh, can I have everyone's email? I just wanna send everyone, a note after this." It's nothing wrong with just going ahead and asking them what their emails were and their full names. And in terms of the thank you cards, I think since we're in a digital world right now, like, very technologically advanced, everyone's fine with getting an email thank you note nowadays, but if you somehow wanna really set yourself apart is write a handwritten note, so you just have, like, a nice thank you card that you bring in your bag or in your portfolio. At the end of your interview, go to the bathroom in that building and write the thank you note to the person who interviewed you for, and leave that thank you note at the reception desk and say, "This is for so and so. Can you make sure this gets to them?" And that person will give it to them, later towards the day or right away. And it's like nice for that interview to get that because what they end up doing is they keep it on their desk or somewhere in their drawer. And every time they look at that, they remember, like, I really like that person and maybe I should get back to them. And it just makes you stand out. But if you don't want to do that and you don't feel comfortable, you can do an email too.
And a quick tip from me personally, from my personal experience, if you're writing to anyone as far as interviewing, when you send an email or you write a thank you note, I find that a lot high percentage of the time, if you tag that email or you tag that note with instead of thank you very much, comma your name, if you put cheers, I noticed it a lot in Australia and also in Europe when you say cheers, your name, it kind of gives you a little different feel when you read that note. So I recommend you do that. Just put cheers to tag each of your emails and notes.
I love that. It's a nice way to spruce up your email or note because not a lot of people do that. People usually do like sincerely, best, and regards too. All are fine. But if you say cheers, it really makes you stand out. It makes
Yes.
them think like, oh, they're not like everyone else. They might be from the UK. I don't know.
Yeah.
So definitely do it. I like that advice.
I feel like it just spruces up the message enough. It really puts some exaggeration on the importance of that actual message versus, something that they've gotten in an email 100 times that day.
Every single time. Yep.
So it's easy to say, thank you, regards. And then, I mean, even if you personally have seen that in an email, you're just like, okay, it's over, email's over, let me go somewhere else. If I were to read, say, cheers, I'm like, oh, this was actually a nice, put together message, thank you note. And they said cheers at the end is really just the cherry on top on conveying that message. And like they
Yeah.
said before, you stand out.
Yeah, I've noticed. I noticed at one time where I sent it out with cheers, and then the person that was writing back to me had sent an email with cheers. I ended up getting that internship, and throughout the internship, every email that this person sent ended with cheers, and I was like, "Aha! I gotcha."
Nice.
So I know it works at least to some degree. But with
Yeah.
that, we're gonna hit our final roadblock for this
Oh,
interview.
okay.
So you're wrapping up the interview, you're saying thank you very much, all this stuff. You ask for your next steps forward. The interviewer goes, "Okay, actually if you have another copy or an updated version of your resume, if you can please give it to me." Luckily, you've come prepared. You have your folder, you have your resume, you pull it out to hand it
Sure.
to them. You look at it, and at the
Yeah.
top of the thing, there's just a big mistake. It says, "I excited," or whatever mistake it says.
Uh,
What do you do?
You say, "Oh, I thought I had my most recent copy here in my folder, but it looks like it's an old version. Do you mind if I just email to you as soon as I get back to my laptop?"
yeah, I think I would more so go that route too as well and say that I either don't have it on me or this copy of my resume has some imperfections that I need to make sure it doesn't have my current phone number, something like that. I'll just try to get back to you. If it's okay, I'd send it to you via email as soon as I get home today. Even before I leave the premises, if I'm in the car, I'm going to try to edit that resume on my own. And if I can't, do it at home and then send it to them the first thing you do after the interview.
Yeah, don't submit something that is gonna make you look bad because they're gonna look at it all the time and it's just not gonna be good.
So here's my updated resume. It's just like it says "I excited" right here. Let me just stretch this out, and then put a carrot, and then write something. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
You definitely don't want to give that actual mistake to them because that is obviously the one that they will be looking at if they ask for it. So even if you pulled it out and they see that you have it, going the version where like, oh, actually, I could see that this one is not the fully updated one. I apologize for that. I'll send it to you immediately and sending it as soon as you can. Always have a copy of your resume on your phone as a file or something like that so you can send it out very easily. But you guys have successfully finished all your roadblocks during the
Oh, let's
interview. So
go.
many roadblocks, but we've cleared them all, which actually takes us close to the end of our tips during an interview.
And before we close this episode out, I want to give you guys a piece of advice that everyone should know. And I think everyone does, but I want to nail it on the head here. Fake it till you make it. Everyone's out here just faking it till they make it. If you're a person who doesn't know how to do interviews and you're not very confident in yourself or you're not very prepared and you don't know, just fake it. Just
Yep.
pretend like that's who you are and fake it until you make it. Don't do blatant lies, but just fake it till you make it. And one day you don't have to fake it because you made it. That's just a huge piece of advice for everyone out there. You don't always have to be 100% prepared, and you don't always have to be your 100% best self right now. You're always learning, and you can always learn it later. So just fake it. And that's my biggest piece of advice in any type of situation in your professional life. Not everyone knows everything, and you won't always know everything. So just pretend and fake it until you learn it.
Exactly. That's why I always walk into an interview and go like, "Hi, I'm Jeff Bezos. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm so excited to do this interview."
Do not say you're Jeff Bezos. No blatant lies.
As you can see, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I'm actually Elon Musk.
Okay.
The reveal.
You can portray that you're Elon Musk, but don't say you're Elon Musk. All right, guys.
All right, that wraps up our interview on acing the interview. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys got a lot of tips, and hopefully if you are preparing for an interview, you can actually use this to your advantage. Make sure that you guys get your edge up when it comes to making sure that you're wearing the right things, wearing some extra things, maybe some speculars if you need it. Bring what you need to bring, have everything prepared. You want to make sure that you come in there more prepared than not. Prep for your interview. Make sure you do everything you can to possibly be prepared for something, even if it's questions that you may not have thought about. Just be able to respond and react quickly. And I know you guys watched us hit those roadblocks, so maybe if you do hit those roadblocks in real life, you have ways to get out of them. So thank you for watching the Ace the Interview episode. Go out there and ace that interview.
Good luck.
You got it.
And if you want more content like this, please like and subscribe, or follow us on Instagram to find out all our most recent updates. We are on all social medias at We Are On The Line, at We Are On The Line. So make sure you support us, and thank you everyone for supporting us until this point. Bye. See you next week. Now, what button do I press?
Yeah!
Did I do that?